Because you've got powerful legs. How did you get the physique? Was it gym or how did you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual slavery.
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on a Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome, folks, to the 619th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. You can find us at 8 o'clock in the UK every Sunday, 12 o'clock Pacific time in the United States, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts, then you can find us the next day. With us today, we have Justin, we have Dez. I'm your host, Matt DiGianardo, and we are pleased to bring to you another called upset by the panel. Ekow Essuman, down the stretch, getting the better of Josh Taylor, winning by very close margins. Deservedly so. Definitely one of those fights where you say it is the tale of two halves. Essuman, his pressure, his high guard, his ability to walk him down, just kind of wore on Taylor, and some good right hands, some good body work when he got him up against the ropes, and lo and behold, Ekow Essuman has his best victory to date in his entire professional career. So it was a hell of a performance for him, Dez, and I got to tell you, if you would have told me after the Harry Scarf loss that we would see this, directly after, I would have said you were crazy. I thought that Essuman looked old, slow, like he was, walking in mud that night. And lo and behold, he just apparently had an off night, because since then, it's been all W's for Essuman, and now the clear highlight of his career.
I thought I did tell you last week that Ekow Essuman was going to beat Josh Taylor.
You did.
I thought me and Justin both told you.
You did. Hopefully people went and put on some of that money. I didn't. I bet on Terry Harper to stop her opponent. Stupid fucking me. But continue about Essuman, please.
Right, so I'm just messing about with you, because we do have a laugh. We're allowed to have a laugh. They've not stopped us doing that yet. So what do we know about Ekow Essuman? Well, I sort of pretty much to repeat ourselves from last week. He's solid, he's strong, he's tough. He comes forward and he presses. Now, I'm not sure if Ekow gets away with that with a Paddy Donovan. I'm not sure he gets away with it with someone like a Norman Jr. I don't think he does. I'm not quite sure if he gets past a Lewis Crocker. But this was a Josh Taylor that we've seen have a career, and a very good career. And it's on the back of making 140 for a very, very long time. Don't forget, Josh was an elite amateur where they boil themselves down. They sleep in plastic suits. They have 3 fights over 3 or 4 days. and it's minimal food, lots of training, high intensity, lots of cardio. And Alex Arthur described what the weight making process recently, and it's a really good analogy. Imagine everyone's a well and they've got a certain amount of water in their well, and every time you come down and make that weight, you're taking a bit of water out of that well. Josh has been taking from that well for a long time, and it's no different from what we see in Chris Eubank Jr. these days, or what we saw in Liam Smith a couple of weeks ago. They're not the same fighter, because making this, getting down as low as you can, hurts you. Now, on the back of making weight for such a long time, Josh has now jumped up 7 pounds. And I suppose the natural reaction is to think, well, he can eat what he wants and he can do what he wants and he's 7 pounds stronger. Well, you can't, because 7 pounds don't really go nowhere. It's nice to have it, but Josh will go 2.5 stone above 140. You know, Josh might walk around at 12.5 stone when he's out of camp. So to come down to 47, it's not easy work. It's still mightily hard. And your body doesn't really recognise, well, you've given me another 7 pounds. It just says that I'm really dead at anything under 11.5 stone. But we know Josh can't box at that. In fact, we was told years ago by Shane McGregor, who was in the gym with Josh from the amateurs, as he turned over and right the way up to the pro grade fight, Josh hasn't got the dynamics, the physics. He's not got the physicality to be a welterweight boxer. It's just not what suits him. His legs, his arms, his proportions. He's not geared up for that. So Josh will have to really pick his opponents at 47.
There's a lot of guys who are built like that who have had success at welterweight. I don't know when and where he's left it, but I just get the feeling, Des, and this is just my opinion, that he probably would have had some more meat on the back end of his career had he moved up to 147 following the first Catterall fight.
I think that was too late for him. He'd already had a career. Again, I go back to the amateurs. He's had a very, very long time at a very elite level. And someone might tell me he done undisputed in about 18 fights. So he's had a very, very high, intense, elite career. He's never really had that 2 or 3 year window where he's fighting guys that are going to get knocked over. He's not going the distance. He's not going into 8-9 round territory. Taylor's always been a high intensity fighter, always fighting good opponents at the level he's at. So, of course, there's been guys that have jumped up. We've seen it countless times, but we was told by his trainer he's the one that can't do it.
But Des, I would say after Ramirez, he probably should have moved up. That's how far ago. If he was going to do it, he should have moved back.
I agree with that.
The end of the Super Six.
Yeah.
Super Six. Yeah.
That's how long ago he should have moved up, because that's how far ago he should have done instead of now.
So Shane said that when they parted company. So a lot of people thought he was being salty. But I mean, Shane's in the gym with him, and he kind of said it. Look, we wish him all the best, but he's not a welterweight boxer. And I've never seen anything in Josh to suggest to me that he's a welterweight boxer. He's not the only one. I remember Ricky Hatton was a really high, intense, strong pressure fighter at 140, but he just wasn't the same kid at 47. So sometimes it does go like that for people. And then you look at guys like Shane Mosley that jump up 2 or 3 weights, but they base their game around other attributes and other skill sets. So what did we have last night? Look, Josh, I thought he started really well. He came out fast hands. He had ring center, loads of volume, and going onto his stall at the end of the first round, his trainer McAnally said to him, "Josh, you're fantastic," and he did look well. In fact, a lot of people looking at that first round thought that Ekow, who's never been at this level, thinking where Josh has been in his career, there might be a disparity here between 2 kids. But then it's round 2, and I thought Ekow started having a little bit more success. And what Ekow did was really cute. If someone's got speed and volume, you have to have timing. And Ekow got his timing right. And he had this Josh being a southpaw, he throws that lead jab really fast. And what Ekow had worked out by round 2 is when he touches me with that jab, I'm going to hit him with a counter backhand. So it's not just a backhand I'm throwing, it's a backhand that he's walking onto. And it kind of took a little bit of ambition out of Josh. It kind of slowed him down a bit. And I saw Ekow grow in the fight. And in round 3, just on the bell, Ekow caught Josh with a brilliant backhand counter. Josh walked onto it. And that's when I thought the fight started to change. Now, don't get me wrong. Round 4, 5, and 6, both kids were having successes. But I was in conversation with Rob Kelly at the time. And in round 4, I think I said to Rob, I don't think if Ekow's still here come round 7, I don't think Josh can get better. I think he only declines. And I think it'd be rapid. And that's when you see guys like Ekow Essuman get better. Now, we talk about what modern day fighter could be a 15-round fighter. Ekow Essuman is the embodiment of that. He's designed for 15 round. He's a slow burner and he steadily turns the screw. And that's what he did last night. He steadily turned the screw on Josh. Now, Josh was always in that fight, certainly up to round 9.
If you would have won the last, I think he would have snuck the draw almost.
I think some of the cards were a lot wider now. I think there was there a
116, 112.
That's
a 116, a 116, 113, because there was one that had an even round in there, and a 115, 113. So no, winning the 12th would not have given him the fight. He would have lost by a point on one card and 2 on another. Still,
and I just felt that Josh at welterweight, on the back of the career he's had, against this type of opponent who's a solid European operator, who's teak tough, who's very consistent, very persistent, who's constant. And we know Ekow's not a concussive puncher, but he's a strong kid. So he's always going to be there. And sometimes hitting strong kids draws energy off you. So and I think Josh going into round 8 or 9, I wouldn't say he fell off a cliff, but his line of trajectory was now on the down, and Ekow was just steadily inclining. So I look, the right man got it for me, maybe by 2 rounds, but I wouldn't have argued if there was a round in it because some of them rounds might have been hard to score. And Josh had a really good first half of the fight. I mean, I gave Josh probably 3 of the first 5, maybe 4 of the first 6. So Josh was in that fight early. But I just thought Ekow showed so much determination, a great game plan. He got his tactics right. And I go back to it. If someone's got speed and volume, which Josh had in the early stage of that fight, you have to have timing. And not only did Ekow have the timing, he started to measure his distance a bit better. So going into the 6th round, 7th round, Ekow found himself being comfortable and he'd taken a lot of ambition away from Josh. Going into the championship rounds, I thought that the trajectories were Josh was on the decline, Ekow was on the incline, and I thought Ekow finished really strong.
Yeah, and he really didn't lose anything from the 7th on. When you say that he won the second half of the fight, I mean he won the second half of the fight, each round pretty well, decisively at the end of the day. And it's tough, Justin, because you asked yourself where does a guy like Taylor go after this? It's a tough call because now he's weighing out, with probably European level, maybe European level plus. So that's a difficult choice for him. Essuman, I guess at the end of the day, wouldn't you kind of like to see the scarf rematch and see if he might be able to get that one back? Because again, he was just off that night, right? That like the guy who fought Scarf and the guy who fought Taylor had their legs were working completely differently.
Yeah, I think he would definitely beat Scarf at the time. I mean, everybody has a bad day, and I think that was just a bad day. But Taylor, as far as he goes here, a lot of his advantages, and also you got to think about too. I know Des, we talked about the weight cut, but Taylor had a lot of advantages at 140 that he doesn't have now. So I don't really know where he's going to go at 147. I mean, I guess he has a following. They could probably, but Essuman, this is not a knock on Essuman, but you're going to have to go to a level lower than Essuman now, because if he can't beat him, you're going to have to go lower, and Essuman is European level, so that means Taylor's going to have to like drop a little bit below European level. And is he willing? Is he willing to do that? Is he
He's
willing
basically got
to
to fight Chris Congo.
I don't. That's a yeah. That's up to him, and like we said, and y'all said it. He looked good for the first 6 rounds, but that's when the conditioning, all the years catch up to you, because Essuman is a grinder, but he's a skilled grinder, and Taylor's just lucky that Essuman really can't bang, because if he could bang, I think he could have stopped Taylor last night. Because he was landing some clean shots, he just can't bang.
No, he's not a banger, but there's
No,
nothing wrong with
a
that.
thumper.
Like Des said, like in the 15-round era, Essuman would probably picked up a good number more stoppages, because you look at like there's some guys who were fighting 15-rounders who didn't have huge knockout percentages, but they were come forward, solid
Conditioning.
punchers,
Yeah.
condition. LaMotta, Ray Mancini, us Italians, I don't know, we got something going on for us in that sense. But
Because there's something about you're right, because if it adds up, and you're right, 15 rounds. Well, Taylor would never have went 15 rounds with Essuman. You're right, that would never have happened last night. He would have completely passed out. But Taylor, I mean, I wouldn't say he hurt Essuman that one round where he knocked him back, but I think he shook him a little bit. But with all the weight drains and moving up, and if you go back to Taylor's, really, when he was in his super run, it's not like Taylor was a one-punch knockout artist anyway. It's not like he was finishing off the top guys with one shot in the first round. And,
he was sneaky. Those shots that he caught Ramirez with were just sneaky,
Yeah, and now when you get a little bit older and you're not the same person you were, you're not going to be able to catch people with those sneaky shots anymore. And
especially if you've dulled your reflexes with substance abuse and shit like that.
Yeah, so Essuman, you got to give it to him. Me and Des called it. You saw all the writing on the wall. You're not trying to pat yourself on the back too much, but you could just kind of read the tea leaves and kind of get a feeling that Essuman was just all wrong for Taylor. Taylor didn't need a guy that was going to come in peak condition and was going to be able to take his shots and was going to be able to go the 12 and was going to be able to do. That's not the kind of guy. That's not what he needs at this stage. I know this sounds, I guess, especially put. He needs to get a little bit softer touch. The guy that is, and Essuman's just too crafty at times. And so I think honestly, this sounds bad for Taylor. I don't really care what Taylor does. He's had his run. I'm more interested in if Essuman gets a bigger fight or gets to move up and do something, because he showed last night. I mean, he come in the condition. He was ready to go. He won the fight. He went to the guy's home place. Mm-hmm. I'm more interested to see what Essuman does than I am actually, to answer your question. I'm definitely more interested in what Essuman than what Taylor does.
See, the problem with Josh Taylor, Justin, the problem we got with Taylor is he's at the worst type of crossroads.
Oh, Justin, go ahead and mute yourself real quick. I think we're getting echo off you.
He's at the worst type of crossroads because he's used to big money. Now that's dropped considerably. He's still got the name. So anyone he fights, Josh Taylor's going to be demotivated by the lack of money he's getting, by the level he's having to box at. But the guys he's boxing it's going to be their cup final because it's Josh Taylor, former undisputed. And I look around at welterweight. Now, it's a bit spare at the elite end. But domestically, Lewis Crocker, Pierce O'Leary, Conor Walker, Harlem Eubank, Paddy Donovan, Michael McKinson, Chris Congo. I'm just thinking, does this version of Josh Taylor, forget whether he's good enough to beat him or not. I'm not asking that. Does this version of Josh Taylor want to drop a considerable amount of money, have to go down and pull up trees to beat them kids that are on the come up and will really work hard, train hard, and relish the opportunity to beat a Josh Taylor? So he might just be at that awkward junction now, that crossroads where it's not worth it anymore now. It's just too hard for Josh at this stage.
It kind of depends on how much you stash in the bank a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
Because he's a domestic. You have to say he's a domestic level fighter now, like Des just said, and like you said. I think you said Chris Congo. that fight, what does that fight do for his career? Where does he? I mean, that doesn't really. It's like that's just I don't know. And Congo could be right there with him. That's another one. You're right. If I was him, I think I would just, hey, you had a good career, and like unless like Matt said, unless he did something bad with his money, it might be time just to look for something else.
And it's, I think the only reason I'd say to fight a guy like a Chris Congo Dez is to potentially stop the bleeding. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. With the the competition declining in each loss to who he's taken these L's against. And if he wants to continue, he needs to stop the bleeding. He needs a 10-rounder, in my opinion. And it's but it's tough for him because I mean he just doesn't seem to have the motor anymore, and it's all a matter like it's a tough pill to swallow. You got to remember, this is a guy who beat 6 undefeated fighters in a row. I think it was. This is a tough pill to swallow, but like that is the way back. Does he want back?
Well, so someone in the chat, let me get his name, Bon Scott, who always throws in intelligent comments and knows his boxing.
Yeah. He said, good member of the community. I like him.
He is. He said Josh was a world champion in 15 and undisputed in 19 fights. You know, some careers are like that. Not everyone has a 45, 50 fight career. Not everybody takes 32 fights to get there. Josh was an elite amateur, an excellent athlete. It really worked for him, but I think maybe his window, his opportunity was a little bit shorter than the rest. He'd done it very quickly, and I think we've just got to accept that. Some guys, they burn out very quick, and I think Josh is that. And the idea of him fighting domestic kids, and not just any type of domestic kid. Let's put Chris Congo to one side because he's on the back of a loss and he's got his own things to work out. But people like Paddy Donovan, Lewis Crocker, Harlem Eubank, Conor Walker on the back of his last win, Pierce O'Leary. These are live dogs. These are really good welterweight kids.
Paddy's a good fight. Like I think Paddy's going to prove to be better than the rest. He's sharp. He's got reflexes. Pop.
But would you
he would stop
see,
Taylor? I think Donovan would stop Taylor.
Would you want to see Lewis Crocker going against this version of Josh Taylor? Lewis is a big, aggressive puncher. Would you want to see Conor Walker in that type of intensity? I really wouldn't. I like the Harlem Eubanks and the Pierce O'Learys. They're waiting for an opportunity. They're waiting for a foot on the ladder, and Josh would be a brilliant foot on the ladder. So, I just think for the money he'd be paid for these fights, the level he's having to drop, and the career he's had, like I said, to repeat myself, it's the worst type of crossroads for Josh. So, as hard as it is for boxers, and we've spoke about how difficult it is for boxers to call it a day and to retire, and part of this is because I know how good Josh is. Part of this kind of I want to preserve his wonderful career and his legacy. But what I'm seeing, look, he's had 36 hard rounds, 2 with Cattrall and 1 with Teo. I've just seen him do another hard 12 where he crashed after about round 7 or 8. I just think, that, how many red flags do we need? Josh, you've had a brilliant career. No disrespect. You've had a fantastic career. You've achieved things that boxers can only dream of. But I think this is it now.
It very well could be it at this point in time. And Justin, here's the last question on Taylor. Magic Wand, change history a little bit. If Josh Taylor beats Teofimo Lopez and retires directly thereafter, is he one of those uncommon single weight Hall of Fame fighters?
He would have a really good argument. I mean, because he was undisputed. I don't know if Teo gets you the Hall of Fame nod, but he would have a definite conversation about it. I'm not sitting there putting him in the Hall of Fame because he beat Lopez, but he would have a definite argument about it. But I think the worst thing he could do now is though keep fighting and hurt your reputation more. Like this, if you don't need to take another fight and lose to a guy below Essuman, and then all people are going to remember you as is, oh yeah, Josh Taylor was good, but look, he lost to Essuman, he lost to some other guy. I mean, you don't want that to happen either, where your legacy is going to be. Yeah, he was good, but God, he just got wiped out when he got. You don't want that to happen. But yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame because just for the fact is Lopez has still yet as a Hall of Fame worthy guy. And I think that's where that victory would have to weigh. Like Lopez would have to go out and put a Hall of Fame resume together for Taylor's win to matter that much to me. And maybe that's just me.
I think that and I don't want to divert this too much, but let me send this over to Des. Des, I think on the subject of Tio, just real quick, I think if he does go to 147 and he beats Boots, he's a Hall of Famer, and that's one of those weird things where it's basically off the back of 3 big victories, i.e. Lomachenko, Taylor, and then Boots. I don't know. I hate to divert that, but it kind of got me thinking in that realm. I think that his legacy is complete in a sense if he beats Boots and doesn't do some dumb Roy Jones shit.
Yeah, I don't think we've got to worry about Tio and his ability. I think Tio will get there. I think he's one of the purest athletes in boxing. I think he's already a pound for pound top 10, top 15 fighter.
The only one who can stop him is himself.
I think he's on that,
right?
But I think he's got that. I think he's got that disposition as well, where a bit like Roberto Duran, he could lose fights and come back. You know, Duran used to do stuff like that. You know, and people didn't hold it against him. I think Tio's got that disposition. But to answer your original question about Josh, I think Josh is certainly one of the best boxers Britain has ever produced in terms of achievements and in how he did it. And I think if he was to beat Tio in New York, because that has something to do with it, where it was, if he was to go to New York and beat Teofimo Lopez, I think Josh Taylor could be put in any conversation in boxing. I think he'd be hugely respected if he'd done that. But he didn't do it. Tio showed up.
As it stands, is Taylor, right now as he sits, the second best Scottish fighter in history behind Buchanan?
Yeah, for me, yeah. Okay. And there's been some really good Scottish fighters. And when we get onto Nathaniel Collins and Lee McGregor, because they had me reminiscing about really good domestic Scottish.
Go into it. Yeah, that's the next one. That fight looked like it was going to be a hell of a good fight until Collins just found the punches in the 4th, and I mean, it was done. And he got him once, and he got him 3 times, and that was the fight. Collins looks to be fierce at this weight, and they mentioned Collins against Nick Ball. I wouldn't do that if I'm Nick Ball. I'd try to find another good payday before I'd risk that. Collins is he's a very live featherweight.
Well, his style will be very difficult for Nick Ball to figure out. We give Nick Ball a hard time on here because he's like a buzzsaw, and we're a little bit. Boxing fans can sometimes be a little bit pompous and snobbish about style.
I actually like Nick Ball plenty, and I think his win over Ford. Yeah, I mean it's and the fact that he fought what's his face fucking close as well. I mean that's good marks on him. I think the only thing that disappoints me of Ball at this point in time, Des, is what his title reign has looked like. They have looked for as many soft touches down the rankings as they possibly could at this point.
Yeah, so. Going back to Nathaniel Collins and Lee McGregor, it got me thinking about some of the Scottish fighters that I've really enjoyed. And of course, the top of that list is Jim Watt and Ken Buchanan. Ken Buchanan was on another planet. He really was. The guys he beat, where he beat him, how he operated. This guy was sort of made Madison Square Garden his second home. This guy was, Muhammad Ali was a fan. The Americans appreciated him more than we did. Very, very good fighter, Ken Buchanan. If you haven't read the book, I'd advise it. I'd recommend it. An elite achiever, an elite performer. Brilliant fighter, Ken. Jim Watt was also a world champion. But we also had really good domestic Scottish kids. I remember, I might be going back a little bit before some of the guys in the chat. Steve will remember these names and Rob will. But we had Alex Arthur and Willie Limond and that natural rivalry. And before then, we had Gary Jacobs and Ricky Burns. Ricky Burns come out of nowhere. almost like a kid that picked up boxing and we wasn't sure how good he would be, and he just went with it, and he had a fantastic career. But there was also guys like John Simpson, and they was around at a brilliant time with Barry Morrison and Kevin Anderson. And I saw Kevin box in the multi-nations back in about 98, 99. And I thought he was going to be the new Roberto Duran, but weight got to him. He couldn't hold that weight, and he got bigger. And of course, he had less effect on his opponents. But they were accompanied by other guys in and around that weight, like Paul Appleby and Paul Truscott. And we had a lovely scene domestically. And it was always on a Friday night, and we really enjoyed our boxing. And a lot of what we had for a 6 or 7 year window was courtesy of some really good Scottish talent. And last night reminded me a bit of that, watching Collins and McGregor. Now, I'm not sure if McGregor's doing the weight right. I didn't like the way he looked. I thought he was a little bit, he was all torso, little arms and little legs. And he looked uncomfortable in there. If you can remember Oscar against Manny, it just looked like he'd crashed the weight off. And in contrast, Nathaniel Collins looked really comfortable, really compact, really strong, and he settled nicely into that southpaw counter-punching style, where he had his hand up and his left backhand a little bit low, and he was waiting to defend and throw. And McGregor didn't seem to have a plan B. He thought, I'm going to sort of walk you down, I'm going to pounce, I'm going to jump into you, I'm going to come into your circle, which all counter punchers have around their feet, that imaginary circle. And when you get into it, they let their hands go and spin off. And that's what Nathaniel did last night. Brilliant exhibition, a brilliant example of counter punching in an aggressive manner. What I mean by that is, we saw Johnny Fisher last week sort of become a reactive counter puncher, but it was quite limp. It was quite negative. It was to keep you away. The way Nathaniel boxed last night was almost like he was setting traps. Yeah, you come into my space, but I'm gonna land. I'm gonna throw. I'm gonna crack you. And he didn't just throw ones, or he throws ones and twos, and he spin off, and he buzzed McGregor. And by the fourth round, he caught McGregor on the inside with I think it was a lead right hook, and McGregor never quite got his senses back. And Nathaniel done an excellent job, dropped him another 2 times, and they threw the towel in. But as well as Nathaniel did, and I thought he looked every bit the classy counter puncher last night in an aggressive mode, I thought McGregor didn't get his tactics right. He played into Nathaniel's hands. I go back to it. I didn't like the way he looked. I think he might have got the weight wrong. He might have crashed that weight off. And if you're doing that against a good kid, especially a kid that looks tight and compact and strong at the weight, who's an aggressive counter puncher, you're going to find it a very hard night's work. So a fantastic win for Nathaniel.
Yeah, that was a good W. And the fact, I think it was a pretty close fight with the books, and the fact that he just wiped him out was absolutely incredible. As far as one of those unexpected things, one of those definitely I have arrived sort of victories as far as it goes. So, Justin, I mean, number one, what did you think of this performance? And number two, if not Nick Ball next, I don't know, Liam Davies, what's your thoughts?
I think Des is right about McGregor. You remember when he first come out, people had a lot of hopes for him. Like, they thought he was going to be a world champion level, and it just hasn't worked out. I don't know if he's not living the life, or he just wasn't what people thought he was. But you're definitely going to watch Collins again, because you got to have that breakout, and that was his breakout last night or Saturday, whenever it was. That was his. He looked crisp. He's got a little pop. He doesn't have the knockouts on his record, but you can see though that he's got a crisp. I think because his punches are sharp and you don't see them. But yeah, and him being a southpaw is going to cause people problems. And I think what you said earlier about Nick Ball, we like Nick Ball on here, and I like Nick Ball. We're just realistic when we say he's going to have problems versus certain guys. That's not meaning that you don't like the guy and you don't appreciate him. You just got to be realistic and say certain guys are going to give him problems because of the way he fights.
He's 5'2", and he's a pattern fighter.
And Collins is a kind of guy that would, if Collins can take a shot, which we don't really know if he's going to be able to take the ball, but if Collins can take a shot, it's going to be a very tough fight for Nick Ball because Collins will be able to pick him just because he's going to, you know what Nick Ball is going to do. And Collins looks like he has that ability. If Collins goes, I don't think they would turn down the Nick Ball fight. Who would? He's got options. You know, I mean, if you get a chance at Nick Ball, I don't think they're going to go there. I can't see. I think Nick Ball and them are, and this is not a knock on Collins, but I think they're looking way above that.
They want in a way. They want
yeah,
the
Collins will not even be, because that is a lose for Nick Ball. He's not going to look good, and even if he goes out there and blitzes Collins in the second round, what does he gain? He doesn't. It's not like he gains a lot. He's not going to. He's already a champion. He's already so yeah. I don't see that happening. I think Collins will try to probably put him in a upper level domestic, maybe a European upper level fight is probably where he's going next, and then go from there. And I don't think they need to rush him. There's no point of him fighting Nick Ball. Even if they could, I don't see the point of that fight. And so I think they'll just keep him where he's at. As far as McGregor goes, I remember when he come out, like I said, he had a lot of stuff, but I think I don't know where he goes from here. He looks like like Des said, he looks like he didn't make the weight correctly. He just didn't look right. And I don't know if going up's an option, but you know, every time somebody can't make weight, they say they're going to go up, and that never works out either. So I have no idea where he's going to go. But hey, give Collins all the credit. He looked good. There's something there. We're going to see.
Yeah, he's a solid fighter, and I mean, another guy on there that you just had to be like, Jesus Christ, what an animal was Moises Itauma. Oh, mute Justin, getting the feedback off you. And Moises Itauma, he put down Mike Belligan 3 times, and the fact that Belligan got up at all was very impressive because he was getting hit clean. But I was noticing, Des, like something I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit worrisome. Is that I did notice that Itauma will move back in straight lines, you know, so you could double up and get him out of position. But lo and behold, he throws a mean ass right hook off of the back foot, moving away from his opponent. I mean, that's nasty power. That's the kind of shit Deontay Wilder was doing.
You don't see many heavyweights anywhere in the world, especially under 15 fights, stop kids with check left hooks. Was it a check right hook or check left hook?
Right, wasn't it?
He was right. He was lit his head right hand out. So you don't see many heavyweights, especially at Moises' his time in his career, winning fights with check hooks. Now he's a special talent, and he's got that thing you can't. He's got timing. He's got punch. He understands distance. He's just a very good fighter. And this is just keeping him lukewarm. This is just, you don't need to know. He's not going to get caught out, not at this level. The only time, he's not going to get caught out at this level. He's a very good fighter. And he reminds me so much of a combination of guys. You know, I don't want to call their names. I don't want to get, you know, people to, you know, take my words out of context. But he reminds me of 4 or 5 brilliant fighters I've seen in the early stages who can throw punches. You think that just comes natural. There wasn't shown that. They've got the timing, they've got the angle right, their feet and their hands work in conjunction together. And if you can get that angle, the timing, the speed, if you know how to be precise, things like last night happen. He was. I like the other kid because he got off the floor and meant it. He said, "I'm going to charge you down. I'm going to rough you up." But
Tough
Moises
son of
can
a
do it
bitch,
too.
man. So we've seen so many people just lay down after tasting such power, and he's like, you know what?
But you can't.
I'm probably going to get knocked out, but I'm going to hit this guy in the face if it kills me.
But you can't stand off Moises. You can't rush him either. He's a really good kid. He's a talent, and this is what talented heavyweights look like. And you can't say that about many heavyweights because they're learning on the job, and it's a different type of boxer. The motor skills are different. But Moises, you could be enjoying a middleweight here, you know, with his motor skills.
You know, the kind of fighter you're going to need to beat a fighter like Itauma. I'm not saying up to this level, because you're talking, top 15, heavyweights of all time probably, but like a Holyfield, a smaller heavyweight who can take some off the glove, do a little bit of weaving, and then punch with you at one point, and then carry on his business afterwards. So that's going to be the kind of guy that can give Itauma trouble, but you're not going to be able to just try to back him up guns blazing. I mean, because clearly he's punching with both hands and in all sorts of places. You have to get a guy like that very out of position for them not to be able to hurt you.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the way you've thrown Evander in there as well. I see snippets of a heavyweight James Toney in there as well, and I see little snippets of, don't laugh when I say this, Audley Harrison. In them early 10 fights, Audley was throwing shots from around the corner. He was bringing them up. He used to get his feet perfect. I've seen a little bit of Lennox Lewis in there from the very early days. Danny Williams as well. Just really talented kids. Some made it, some didn't. But talent is talent. And to do things that coaches ain't coached, and to do things that haven't been taught in the gym, it comes natural. You do it on the bag, you do it in the mirror, and you transfer that under the lights. Moises is a talented kid, and I enjoy watching him because I'm just enjoying this journey. I think about guys that, perhaps at domestic or European level that I think Moises would be comfortable with. And I don't know what you think, but I think Moises would be comfortable with Kohli, Riakporhe. I think he'd be comfortable with Hrgovic. Yeah, I think he'd be comfortable with all them guys. And them guys have operated at a high level, perhaps at a different weight. But I think Moises beats them guys. And I think if you put him in there against guys like Joyce, Chisora, White, like the sort of typical gatekeepers, I think he beats them. And I think the Adelaides and the Fabio Wardleys, and the Huey Furies, I don't think they get nowhere near Moises. I think he's a really talented kid.
Yeah, Justin, this is a very high level heavyweight prospect. A lot of people whose opinion I respect are high on him. I mean, Dez is not alone. Plenty of pundits. Adam Abramowitz, I've known for years, writes for Ring. He's on the transnational boxing rating board and all that shit. But a lot of guys are raving about this guy, and I worry about getting on the hype train, but I also at the same time worry about getting on the overly critical train and trying to find issue with this guy, because this is a dangerous looking prospect. He's different than the Anthony Joshuas of the world. It just, I don't know who he runs into and how this goes. What's your ceiling on him right now?
I would have to, you got to be careful when it comes to heavyweight boxing, because everybody can punch. And so you got to be careful with that. But I think last night what I liked was you give Balagoon credit because he come to fight. He didn't. And so Itauma will learn something from last night, because Balagoon was there. Even though he got knocked down, he kept coming. And he did land a couple of shots. So I think that was a good learning fight for Itauma last night. Even though it only went 2 rounds, he learned something. You got a guy that's going to be in your face, and he's going to come at you. Just like, Balagoon lost to another young prospect in Gassiev about 6 months ago. So he's been in there with some good guys.
A young prospect in Gassiev.
Wait, because what is he like?
Former champion in Gassiev, I think. Yeah.
So I like Itauma, and I think out of the people Des said, I think the only guy that could give him an issue would be Hrgovic, just because Hrgovic is better than I think people think. Where Itauma would have a good time with Hrgovic is Hrgovic is so slow. But so that would be, I would not be looking to make the Hrgovic fight, because I really believe Itauma, with just his ability, could definitely clear out the Joyce, the White, the Ekows, the Riakporhes. Riakporhe is so slow. Itauma would eat him up. I don't think Riakporhe would even get close to touching him, because he's so methodical, mechanical. That would be an easy fight for Itauma, in my opinion. But Itauma, but you're getting to the point now that I think we talk about this with prospects, and Des knows what I'm talking about. You're either going to sink or you're either going to have to go for it or calm down, because you're getting to the point now. If you keep that, how many more fights? Because once you step him up, you can't step back. So that's the question for them, I think, is when are they going to make that step up fight? Because once you reach that level, you can't go and do learning fight. So I think that's the key with Itauma is when are they going to cut him loose? When are they going to make like the Hrgovic fight, the Iraq Pours? Because once you start getting to certain levels, that's it. There's no, well, let's bring in another Mike Balagun on an undercard. So that's curious for me is when they're going to make that step up. That's what I'm waiting on. When they're going to make you're here now, you're at the level now, let's go for it. That's the fight I'm waiting on.
Yeah, it's the problem is we're in the era of big men, and I have a hard time picking out that smaller frame fighter who might be able to do it. Des, you got any final thoughts on Itauma before we close up this card? Yeah, go for it.
Just to play sort of, just to throw it out there. Justin, who wins? And if you had to put your name to a fighter, who wins? Anthony Joshua or Hrgovic?
Right now, I would say even with this version of Joshua, I think he would stop Hrgovic.
Right.
I think he was. I'm not saying he would stop him early, but I think he would stop Hrgovic.
I think Joshua beats Hrgovic.
Yeah, I think he stops him. Like,
who wins, Itauma or AJ?
Right now, God, you would. I know we give Joshua a lot of crap, but
let me frame it another way. Would you trust Anthony Joshua to navigate through the first 5 rounds with a live Moises Itauma?
That you're right, because Itauma is. I don't think that guy has any thought.
Moises is touching him. At some point, Moises is touching him, and you think, could AJ navigate? Like we've seen what happens when AJ gets clipped. Okay.
Well, see, that's a fight too. That's a fight has a lot of things too, because you're like motivation. You know what the Itauma motivation is going to be. This is like, if I beat Anthony Joshua, I'm here. I'm officially like I'm the number one man in England. I'm it. And so then you got to like, what? So if they fought right now, let's say they fought 6 months from now, had a training camp. God, even if you don't like Joshua, you still have to say it's 60-40. You would have to give Joshua the edge because of just what he's done and what you know. Because people give him hell for the Usyk. He lost the Usyk fights, but it's not like he wasn't in the Usyk fights. I know we give him a lot of hell for the stuff he said after the fight, making fun of him. But if you go back, Joshua was in those fights. He landed some shots. It wasn't like he got blown out. Could Itauma do the same versus Usyk? There's a lot of little questions.
Right, so I want to put the brakes on it. So I'm not saying for 1 minute that Moises beats Anthony Joshua and fights Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, because that's not going to happen, and that shouldn't happen. There's a process here. What I'm saying is, just in isolation, I wouldn't trust Anthony Joshua to get through the first 5 rounds against Moises Itauma and not get tagged. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is I'd put Moises in with anyone, probably other than Usyk or Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying if I was managing him, I would. I'm just
saying. But here's the question for you. I think we all feel like Itauma has elite power. I think that's kind of what we're thinking.
And timing and distance and accuracy.
But he hasn't fought anybody that's really good yet.
And we don't know what happens when he gets clipped.
That's what I'm saying. So who would he have to beat now? Okay, that's legit power. It would have to be a Hrgovic, because I don't think beating Dillian White shows that you've got great power, because Dillian White's he's washed. So you're talking about like he would have to knock out a Hrgovic. He would have to knock out a Zhang. Somebody, even a Zhang wouldn't even be like, he has to, for me, and that's just me, I'm always overcritical about things. Until he knocks out a legit guy, I'm not going to sit there and say that his power is, everybody's got his power being this elite elite Ernie Shavers power. We'll see. He has to knock out somebody. But like you're right, Joshua is a man who is his mind is made of peanut brittle. It's so you don't know what he's going to do, if it's going to break or. So you're right. If Itauma, a young kid, put it on him the first few rounds, you're right. It could be a very 50-50 what would happen then.
Yeah, but the fact that you're already thinking that he might play into this division like that it speaks volumes. But I do think that there is a level between last night and some of the things that you're talking about there, or some of the fighters you're talking about there. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Our man Ricky Graville throwing a $5 in there. Thank you, Ricky. We appreciate you very much, sir. One of the good guys of the Boxing Nutters Messenger group. And also on that undercard, I'm just going to run this quick because I know Justin's on a bit of a timeline and it's Memorial Day weekend here. I got to get some meat on the smoker here at some point too. Alois Uembe with a good stoppage over David Jameson. He looks like he could be an interesting, I believe, a cruiserweight fighter, I think he was. Aston Brown, stoppage over Reese Porter. Luke McCormick, stoppage over Samir Fuentes. Marcus Sutherland, stoppage over Dylan Nixon. Reese Lynch, stoppage over Jonatas Rodrigo Gomez de Oliveira. It's a lot of names. I think he might be Brazilian. Alex Arthur points over Robbie Chapman. Drew Lemond over Ezekiel Gregors. Yes, those are sons of former very solid British fighters. Lee Welsh, a stoppage win over Tony Morton. Luke Bibby, a points win over Cesar Ignacio Paredes. So that was on Saturday from Scotland, and we will see where all those folks go from here. But obviously, Ekow Essuman, Nathaniel Collins, Moises, Itauma, obviously all on the big up there. We had a super chat and a good question in here from Daniela De Rossi. Thank you very much. Throwing a tenner in, says, what boxer had talent by God? Is it possible to get to the elite top level not born with that great athleticism? Congratulations, Maddie Leo Grande, Napole Murda Sampre, guys. Yes, an American Pope. It's a shocking turn of events. That's another story altogether, but thanks for the super chat. Talent by God. I think sometimes you got to weigh like stuff like people are just huge punchers or were late into the sport and found themselves at the top level. Guys like Deontay Wilder, talent by God. Sergio Martinez, late comer into boxing, absolute athlete, talent by God. The top level without great athleticism, I think that you need to either have a great mind or be a great puncher. And it's tough because those guys usually end up getting exposed before they really reach the top. So I'm trying to think on that one. I don't know, Des. That's a good one. Who are some guys who competed at the top level who were not fundamentally exceptional athletes?
I think it's a great question, and it's always a debate to be had, because I always think boxing is probably the most skillful physical sport, because there's so many things you have to have. We don't talk about having a good chin as a skill. We don't talk about being brave as a skill, or being genuinely tough, or powers of recovery, because they're just as important as having quick feet, quick hands, understanding angles. I think if you could put all that together, you've probably got someone like a Muhammad Ali, or you've got someone like a James Toney, which are the ultimate skill set guys. They're probably the top of the chain, but them guys were also great athletes as well. So to answer Daniela De Rossi's question, I would say two jump out at me. Now, I always wondered, how did Roberto Duran become the greatest lightweight of all time and probably top 3 Hispanic fighters of all time, and maybe top 10 fighters of all time across all divisions? Because we know he come from a slum. We know he come from poverty. There wasn't an elite performance program. There wasn't nutrition. There wasn't a schedule. It was pretty much a smoker mentality. I'm going to go, I'm going to knock someone out for a few quid, and I'm going to go back to what I normally do in life, which is sort of, you know, beg, borrow, and steal. The next week I'll do it again. And that kid ended up being king of the world. So if anyone's going to get touched by God, it's someone with that type of story, because no one else has managed to produce a Roberto Duran. No one in the first world, no one in Europe, no one in America. He's absolutely unique. So I think touched by God, someone like Roberto Duran. But probably the better example of someone who wasn't a natural athlete, was never what you'd call your typical boxer, who was an absolute elite fighter and had everything. Probably Larry Holmes.
That's an interesting one. I don't know that Vlad was particularly athletic. And I guess somewhat to Dez's point, I kind of think that Ricardo Mayorga was kind of a cut rate Roberto Duran.
That's what I thought. I thought Mickey Ward, John Ruiz, Ricardo Mayorga. Those are the guys I was thinking that won world titles and fought were completely unathletic, but were smart, had ability, or their style was so awkward. I think you can get to the top if you have if you're really smart, but you have like a really crazy style, like either you're really negative, like a Ruiz, where you're not athletic, you're not, but you're nasty.
Miguel Vasquez.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, if you have a really bad style or a really awkward style, you can have a good boxing career and win world titles. And you might run a 6'3" 40, and you might be like, yeah, it's just there is a way to do it, but you have to work so much harder than the naturally God gifted guys. Like, you have to. And I'm not saying they're not as intelligent, but you have to do it a different way. You have to think the game than the God-given guys. But when the God-given guys can do both, that's when you get the Tonys, the Hopkins, the Mayweathers. That's when you get the guys that are really, really hard to beat, when they can bring in the awkward styles and they have the great athleticism. Those are the guys that are elite Hall of Famers that can bring you both sides of the coin.
Yeah. I like this question now. That's kind of coming. After our discussion, any other names come to mind for you, Des, before we move on? That was kind of a fun one.
No. I mean, I concur with what you and Justice said. All them guys, I think, are sort of very raw. But I think I'm going to go with Duran and Larry Holmes for different reasons. I just think how someone like Roberto Duran from the slums of Panama, who's never been near any type of nutrition, dietitian, S&C, never been in a gym that was kitted out. These guys used to punch tires on walls, and their sparring rings were, bits of rope from one corner of the room to another, and he ended up being one of the greatest ever to have done it. And Larry Holmes is the same. This is a kid that was you probably stick him in a football team because what's someone is it a defensive linebacker, some big lump that gets in the way of the good guy? I don't know. What do you call them guys? I don't know the sport very well.
Defensive lineman.
A defensive lineman. So I think someone at college would have said, go on, he can do that. But he wouldn't have been a basketball player. He wouldn't have been a sprinter. He wouldn't have been anything athletic. But somehow he found himself into a boxing ring. And boy, was he brilliant.
I got one more. Sorarung B-side. The guy that beat, that had the two big wins over Chocolatito. You remember his backstory. This goes to what Des said. You remember he was eating rats. He was like living out in the jungle on the dirt like floor. And he wasn't athletic. He wasn't, but that's another guy that didn't have the God, didn't come down and give him all that ability, but he was just a nasty, hard guy.
It makes you wonder, Justin, doesn't it? So let's take that point. It's a brilliant one you just described there, and it got me thinking about Edison Miranda, who was homeless for years and years and used to eat roadkill and come from Colombia. You think so? Somehow, in between staying alive, you've become a world-class boxer. Now, we know how hard that is with all the facilities and all the advantages that the first world has to offer. We know how hard that is if you're a really good kid in a local gym that graduates to the regionals, to the nationals, to the podium squads, and you're living in that elite institution in Sheffield. We know how hard it is for them kids. So how did Edison Miranda come to do it? It is. I think
Hey,
sometimes
I beat
you're
roadkill.
touched
I beat
by God.
roadkill, and I'm not that strong. So you are. It's just it. Like I said, hey, I have beaten roadkill a few times, and I did not have Edison Miranda's drive and power. But that's another story. But you're right. Hey, sometimes
some folk will never eat a skunk, but then again, some folk will like just.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, we literally just had possum 2 weeks ago.
Oh
And I'm not
goddamn,
even,
man! No.
Yeah, and I'm not even that redneck. I'm just saying we had it.
I've never had possum, man. Like my idea of Southern cooking, like I like I'm making Myron Mixon's cupcake chicken.
Oh,
like
I gotta tell.
that's my idea of Southern
I gotta
cooking, not fucking
this.
possum.
I got about 20 minutes before I get off. I gotta tell this story real quick. This is
please do.
about Southern related. We went to. My dad had a couple of strokes last year, so I've been trying to get him out doing stuff. So I was like, let's go to Atlanta, watch some baseball. We'll just spend the whole weekend. Well, he wanted to go to this flea market. And I was like, Dad, I don't want to go to a flea market in Atlanta. God, if y'all know, Matt knows, it just ain't the place for a redheaded white people. It's just not. And so I was like, we'll go.
Oh, that's a good way to get skin cancer.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those flea markets that had like the Messi jerseys, but they spelled it with one S. So it's just like Messi, like the fake off-brand stuff. Well, they had the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. Well, I thought it was cool. This woman, she made ceramic titty mugs. And they're tanned, like because they're Hispanic, tanned, and they got the nipples on them. So you double fist the ceramic mugs while you're drinking. That's what she told me. But if you pull a little piece of plastic inside, water or whatever you're drinking comes out the nipple, so you can turn it up to your friends and they can suck on the ceramic nipple at parties. So that was probably the really, really cool was the titty mugs. And they had I don't know which one of your buddies is going to be bending over while they suck your ceramic tit, but that was a really cool thing. Anyway, off subject, but they were selling. The guy had, reason I brought that up is he had bullfrog, possum, and squirrel meat in coolers. And that's when I told Dad, we got to get the hell out of here. I said, I'm not staying there no more. But yeah, the titty mugs were the coolest thing of the whole flea market. Now we can get back onto the Japanese card or something. That's a side story.
Oh shit! Well, before we go there, real quick, Rob Kelly has joined us. Rob, we just wrapped up the Josh Taylor card. So anything you want to say about that, feel free, sir.
Yeah, I only really saw. Sorry, evening guys. I only really saw the Taylor Essuman fight and Moises Itauma. So Itauma was poetry emotion, knocked the guy out going back, knocked the guy out in the fashion we expect him to knock these kind of guys out in, and you just want to see him moved along now and see. I know it's like maybe hard to get a guy to test him, and it's hard to get guys to commit to wanting to fight him because the bag's probably not big enough, but he can't just keep marching through these guys and expecting people to engage in his journey either. Like you gotta put him in there with someone who's going to move him about a bit and give him a different look. I'd still expect him to get to most guys, and deal with them quite handily. But like slowly, somebody can go in and start giving him rounds now. Like, so exciting knockout though, one for the highlight reels, and then the main event. I thought Taylor looked sharp for the first 4 rounds. I thought he was in the fight. He might have been unlucky not to have a count registered when Essuman went back into the ropes. But it seemed like after the 4 rounds, his legs were gone, and Essuman was hanging in there with him. It was a tight fight. I thought it was a close fight, but I thought it was a clear winner in a close fight, and Ekow Essuman did enough. Joe McNally, I don't know enough about him to know whether he's a head trainer or a coach or whatever, but I feel like he was giving Taylor. He was giving him instructions, but maybe too much stuff at one time, and he was kidding him on a little bit. Now, maybe he was seeing the fight that way, but I thought Taylor needed more urgency. But then again, it's different. There's a difference between telling a guy to hold the center of the ring when he's not physically able to do it. I thought Taylor was getting pushed to the outside because he wasn't able to hang in there with Essuman, and when he started to open up, it actually suited Essuman a bit because Taylor ended up coming off worse for wear and ended up backing up to the rope. So just looked like he had nothing left. Didn't look like he's not dead at the weight because he's 47 now, but just like he's only had 22 fights or something, but he's only fought like 4 times in the last 5 years or something. It feels like the prime of his career passed him by. Like, there
One of
may be
those
other reasons
guys
for
whose
that.
career might have taken a shit because of COVID, give or take. I know he had some decent wins after that, but that was a lot of time to give up during your prime.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there has to be outside factors too when you're looking in. I don't know, but there has to be something else going on there as well. Like whether he's not a good trainer or I don't know if he
Well,
likes a
within that,
jar or whatever.
if you had a bit of a drinking problem, like COVID was bad for alcoholics because you're stuck in the
Yeah.
fucking house. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you worry about guys like that because
A lot of guys developed fucking drinking problems during that time as well. Like they never drank. Like there's a lot of guys that I know that fucking started having a few beers around that time. Like that ended up kind of on the sauce then afterwards. Like
yeah.
so. Anyway, that's fucking. I don't know enough
But
about Taylor to know whether he is,
it
but
it dulls your reflexes and stuff like that. And he was such a reflex oriented fighter.
you can't. I know. If he is a drinker, you can't get away with that in top level boxing. You can't. Like, might have been back in the day. You might have been able to. Same as being a Premier League footballer back in the day. You might have been able to be on the sauce and get away with it. Like you won't. You won't fucking get away with it today. The athletes are too far advanced, and that kind of stuff pays you back. And I think after 22 fights, with the last couple of fights been against Catrell and this, like he's kind of fell off a ledge like somewhere along the line. He shouldn't like he's gone from undisputed champion to this. Like not that Essuman's a decent fighter. There's nothing against him, and I think he'd be looking to move on to better and bigger things now. And he's a tough opponent. He's fucking hard as nails. He deserves his credit and the kind of talk to be about him rather than Josh Taylor falling off a cliff. But when you have a guy who was cleaning up the division at 140, and then comes up and just like there's the Lopez battered him, fucking 2 losses to Catrell really when you think about it, even though one of them's only on the record, and then this now it's like where's he going from here? Like he's talking about he's going to be back, but back against who? Like 'cause he needs to drop down a level if he's going to. Because Essuman, you think he's a good fighter at a certain level. I still think Essuman was the quality was poor enough in the first 6 rounds. Essuman wasn't really setting up any shots like he wasn't being cute or anything. He was just kind of using his physical attributes to stay in the fight, and he wasn't doing anything incredible in there either. Like it was poor quality. They're looking at Taylor like going fucking hell.
He was
4
the
fights
right
ago.
measuring stick to see where Taylor was at. Honestly, he was
Well,
the right
we've
guy.
seen
He
it
was
now. Like yeah.
close, but he didn't win, and nobody's really arguing he did.
No, not a fucking hope. But not a hope anybody would think that Taylor nicked that. I can't even say he needed at least the last round to get a draw for me. Like, and he wasn't. You could see he was trying to win it, but he wasn't able to do anything, especially in the last third of the fight. So, it is what it is. Essuman did his thing, and Taylor will be back. I guess where he goes, I don't know.
Yeah, and that was kind of the question we were left with as well. So yeah, the world waits with bated breath apparently. But let's go over to what happened in Japan on Saturday morning for me. Very early, so I only caught one of the fights. Saturday afternoon for you people in the UK. But why am I Angelo Leo? I was saying Alberto Leo. No, I was getting makes him up with the guy who took his title from. Angelo Leo getting a majority decision over Tomoke Kameda, and what was another good, entertaining fight from Japan. Not obviously fight of the year candidate or up there, but it was good quality action. What was a close fight that I think that Leo definitely deserved to win, and a majority decision. It was close enough. Maybe you can get to the draw if you want to, but he just did the cleaner work. He put his punches together a little bit better. And although Tomoki looked big in there and landed some nice single shots, it just Leo's ability to work and find a home oftentimes for his hook seemed to be the difference there, Justin.
Yeah, I thought when Leo just boxed him, he didn't have a lot of problems. I think it's when he tried to stand with Kameda, because like you said, Kameda looked huge, bigger than I've seen him. And so when Leo tried to just stand with him is when Kameda had success, and that's probably where he won a few of his rounds. But I'm like you. I have no problem with the decision. I definitely thought Leo won. I don't think it was as close as a majority decision, honestly. And maybe I'm just biased because, like you said, I live in Albuquerque where he's from, and I've been to their gym. So I kind of like Leo, but I thought when he boxed him and didn't try to stand man to man with him, and that's because that's kind of what Kameda wanted at this point in his career. Kameda wants that kind of fight. And so when Leo gave it to him, of course, Kameda had success. But I think Leo, that's one of those, you got to get through those fights. He went to Japan. He got it done. I think he's definitely set himself up for a good payday now. And so I'm definitely Leo is the guy that's grown on me. So I'm definitely, and he's had this big power outburst, but Kameda's never been knocked out, so you can't say much about that. He landed some great shots, but Kameda's a tough dude. He's never been knocked out, so
no, and that's the choice that Leo had to make.
Yeah,
is he's going in there thinking, "Oh, I knocked out the champion."
Yeah, he can't knock him. That's what I was saying. I think he had that Lopez style that I'm going to be able to maybe lay on my punches and sit on them with Kameda, but you can't do that with Kameda. Kameda's just a tough dude, and he's huge. So, but Leo did what he had to do.
Was he making bantamweight or was he making 122? I don't know.
Yeah, he was
either. He was fucking massive.
No, he made weight. Yeah, he was like 2 or 3 below this one at one time. I don't know how he got, because when you remember Kameda, he was one of the guys that was initially when PBC started. Him and his brothers were like on those cards when PBC was first coming around.
Yeah,
and he was half this size.
He didn't like in there and something. And
yeah,
he
lost to some random guy, like probably under one of those. Who was it? Where did he fight in Texas? I keep forgetting.
San Antonio card. I think it might have been on one of the same cards as.
Yeah, it was one of them fights that he was random card he was on, and he didn't like it, so basically he left the PBC. But what I'm saying is, he was like, I think he was on one of the Carl Frampton random undercard. Remember, Frampton fought like in El Paso, Texas, or some stupid shit. I thought he was like on one of those, but yeah, he was half the size of then that he is now. It's like he has grown like doubled. So yeah, I don't know how he made that far. But I was thinking it was a Carl Frampton undercard or something.
He lost two decisions to Jamie McDonnell, and both were in Texas.
Yep, that's what so we were right. We had the state right. I knew he lost a couple that he thought he definitely won. So then you never saw him. And then he kind of went away for a while.
Yeah,
and he got on something when he went away.
Yeah, then he went and he fought Ray Vargas in 2019, and that was a loss. Lorato Diamini, I don't remember that fight. Oh, he was able to avenge that one though. So, yeah, I mean So he was at 118. I don't know how the hell he made that though, but it was a good fun fight, and at this point in time, it seems like Leo is probably setting himself up with going to Japan for a potential fight with Naoya Inoue. And Rob, I mean, of the various opponents you could pick at 126 pounds, if you're Naoya Inoue and you want to try another division, is Angelo Leo the guy that you want?
I don't know, because I said before, I think the only thing that gets Inoue as he goes up the divisions is going to be somebody that's able to stick around and take his power. And if he can't outbox him, then there might be somebody that outdoes him with sheer physical mass or just a bigger puncher at the weight. So Leo looks the biz. Like, I think that might be a step too far for Inoue, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think Des, I don't know if you're back or not there, but I think they're trying to pick. I think they're trying to grab either Leo or Nick Ball for Inoue to test the waters at 126. If we're narrowing it down to 2, who are you going with?
I think they go for Leo. Yeah, I think all the signs suggest that they fancy Leo, and that would be groundbreaking for people in the new age business. So Angelo's a really confident fighter now. He's on the up, and he really believes in himself. And since that Stephen Fulton loss, he's had a really good run, and he's looked really good against guys that they put in to catch him out. I think, the Polanco, the Lopez, the Kamida fights, that was up for Leo to go and win them. Because if you're going to get caught out in one of these fights, we're going to catch you out. But he's come through them all. But I think the people behind Inoue will look at the Fulton fight. Now, I'm a big fan of Stephen Fulton. And if you take the Inoue fight out of Stephen Fulton's career, this guy's a top kid, a top American. He really is. He looked fantastic against Figueroa last time out. He's really finding himself now, Stephen Fulton. He's a good kid. But I think the people in the Inoue business will look at the way Fulton beat Leo, look at the way Leo is a technically good fighter and he's a hooker, but he doesn't have ridiculous concussive power. And if you're going to go up and you look at guys like Espinosa, who I think is just too tall and can crack. My favourite is Bruce Carrington. He's too underwhelming at the minute, but he's going to be the top kid at featherweight soon. And you look at the likes of Figueroa, who doesn't have any value, but he's got this horrible, marauding, long-limbed style. And of course, there's Nick Ball. And I think making the Nick Ball fight could be problematic. But I think Nick Ball's solid, stocky. He's a buzzsaw. I just think all signs lead to Leo, personally. Could be wrong, but I think that's the fight they're going to make.
Yeah, I mean, there were other options, I suppose, out there than Tomoki Kameda, especially Tomoki Kameda in Japan. So you got to think there was a thought process behind that move entirely. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see where he might go from here. I think he might have to get another defense in the middle here, because I don't think that fight will be available for him until early 2026. But we shall see.
Just quickly, Matty. They want to make that move in the next 12 months, 8 to 12 months, because within that time, Bruce Carrington is going to own the featherweight division. So they've got to do it before he gets there.
God, I'm not sure that Carrington gets past Espinosa. I think Espinosa might be just the freakish weird goods.
This would be a friendly little agreement, a bet we have. I think Bruce Carrington becomes a star of boxing. It's going to take about 12 to 18 months before he's solidified. But what I've seen of Bruce Carrington, particularly his last one, this guy's got it all.
Yeah, he's the only thing I could say against Carrington is that he's not getting some guys out of there that I think he should be getting out of there. And if you're not getting guys out of there, in a way, I don't think he's going to cease being a puncher one weight class higher. So I don't know about that. And Espinosa, you don't want to be in front of Espinosa in the 12th round.
And I think that's what goes for Carrington. I don't think he's looking for knockouts anymore. I think he's just relaxed, he's composed, and his shot picking, his selection is really good, his variation is good. And I think exactly the point you made there, he's not that puncher. He's almost like how Floyd became at 47 is what Carrington is at featherweight. I think that's where I think Carrington's very relaxed now, knowing I've not got to go and look for these guys. They're going to come to me and I'm going to just pick them off. I'm going to stand them on their heads. I could be wrong on this, but I do like throwing a name out there. He's already making a lot of noises. I think in the next 12 months, I think Carrington will be the standout featherweight. Even now, I think Carrington beats a lot of guys in that division. Espinosa is always going to be a banana skin because of the height disparity between him and everybody else. But you can figure out these big guys if you're talented.
Yeah, when you don't have any real weight in your legs, you're gonna be chinny. It's one of those things, and that's a lot of guys who have gone down in weight to pursue a size advantage have found out that it doesn't do them any favors because they.
So Big John has a great chin then because he's not skinning any legs.
Oh, I would imagine it's probably like fighting Butterbean if Butterbean didn't throw punches.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think you were getting ready to ask about the Torabon fight.
The rest of the card. Yeah, there was a rematch of a minimum weight title fight where
I watched
Japanese cat got taken out on a stretcher.
Yeah, I got the part 2, him and the Shigeoka fight. Torban just landed the better shot, more power, come forward, beat him. But I'm gonna let y'all handle the great Maxie Hughes Archie Sharp fight because I'm getting ready to go. We're in Atlanta. I'm getting ready to go. I think we're getting ready to go party in downtown Atlanta for the next 10 hours. So we're
That sounds awesome. Get off this fucking pod and go and enjoy yourself. Fuck's sake.
That's right. Yeah, I'm waiting on my buddy. He'll be here in about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna go get ready. Then we're gonna just get destroyed in Atlanta for a while. Maybe hit it. Hey, they got good strip clubs here. I imagine we might end up.
Go to Killer Mike's
I'll wait.
Club.
Yeah, we're gonna look. We're
Welcome
gonna
to
look. We're
Atlanta,
gonna
where
just
the players play, as they say.
Yeah, this is like my sixth trip to Atlanta, so we always it's crazy. I'm looking at a homeless man right now. He has a bag chair. You know where you order food at McDonald's? He's sitting in a bag chair beside the thing where you order your food.
Huh.
And they haven't removed him yet. So it's good times there. So when you yeah. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a
good time. Take care, buddy. Be safe.
Later.
All right. Yeah. So I need to catch the rest of that Japanese card, but I'll tell you what I never need to see again for the fucking life of me, so help me God, is Maxie Hughes versus Archie Sharp. Hughes winning on far wider cards than what some might have thought. I guess there was some rounds you could pick and choose, but Sharp, absolutely negative. Just another entry into the shit performances that we have seen in the month of May. But Hughes was able to find some short shots that closed in the distance at times. He was able to kind of find a right hook, left hand combination that I think ultimately won him the fight. But Des, I think what irritated me more than anything is guys will fight negative off the back foot, seen it a million times. But the fact that he was showboating while not winning the fight, he was definitely not reading the room, Des. It was a piss poor performance by Sharp, and that 120-108 card actually pleased me a great deal. That one judge wanted none of his shit.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say about this one. I mean, this is look, Archie's this reactive, risk-averse counter-puncher that not only keeps a lot of distance, he sits on his back foot while he's keeping a lot of distance. He just doesn't want to get touched. And there's being reactive and there's being risk averse. And Archie just stunk the place out on Friday. And it's a strange one because Archie's not been overly active. And the last time out against Ryan Garner, he got beat. And that's a red flag for the promoter. It's almost like, well, I'm going to bring you back, but you're going to have to work for it. Now, you'd have thought Archie going in with a 35-year-old Maxie that's had 7 losses. He's not a puncher. He's lost 2 of his last 4, admittedly at good level. You'd have thought Archie would have thought, I'm going to make a statement here. I'm going to prove to my opponent, my promoter, I'm worth investing in. I'm worth keeping. But he didn't do that. And you have to look at Archie's career. And I don't want to be too disparaging or too disrespectful, but Archie's never put his flag in the ground. He's never said, this is who I am. I want to fight for a British title. I want to fight for a European title. I want to compete with my domestic rivals. I almost get the impression with Archie Sharp, he's kind of like, he wants to sort of tiptoe around this boxing thing, pick up a few quid, build a resume, build a record, and then say, I'm going to get the big one. And it hasn't worked for him. I don't know anyone that wants to watch Archie Sharp fight. I don't know anyone that's invested in him. And Friday night was a fight that meant nothing and didn't tell us anything. But it told us one thing. It told us that perhaps Archie Sharp has done this now. Now, I'm not sure where Maxie Hughes goes. You know, he's earned the right to be given another opportunity on the back of his last 4 or 5 fights. He takes on a lot of all comers and he boxes at a high level. And sometimes he doesn't get fights he should get.
And he beat Kambosos. I mean, he's Euro level plus. He's
Euro level,
he's
yeah.
something
Euro
better,
level.
yeah.
I don't think he's Euro level plus to split hairs. I don't want to do that, but I think Archie's that kid that's somewhere bouncing between a British title and a European title, depending who the European champion is. But what I do know is that what I saw on Friday, you know, no promoter is going to put money down to put Archie Sharp on their show. He's now lost 2 on the spin. He's not been overly active. You look at his resume and you think, who have you boxed? Maybe this is the end of the line for Archie. So, but onward and upward for Maxi. He's still going at 35, and I think he'll always get opportunities because Maxi always comes in fit, in shape, game with a good plan, and he's a very, very capable operator. And he's not a puncher, Maxi. So promoters will fancy putting their kids in with him. So I think Maxi gets a lot of opportunities, but where Archie goes, not quite sure.
Yeah, Rob, I know sometimes you don't want to watch things on a Friday night. You have better things to do. Please tell me that you found something better to do.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one. I don't think we're going to cover any new ground. Listen to me.
Lucky you. Well, yeah, and on the that was actually on the undercard of Terry Harper against Natalie Zimmerman. Zimmerman undefeated, untested, losing basically every round to Harper, but she tried. Got a nasty cut that opened up in the 10th round. If it would have opened up in the 9th, the fight would have been stopped. I would have won a quick fiver, but unfortunately, no. Harper frustrated at times. Zimmerman just didn't want to go down. What are you going to do? Des, did you see anything else on the undercard of this fight?
No, I wasn't interested in, no disrespect, I wasn't interested in Terry Harper and Zimmerman, and I didn't watch the rest of the card either, mate.
Yeah, well, there we go. It's what are you going to do? It was there were some good fights this weekend. It was a little bit underwhelming at times, and it was but it was cool. There's some talent out there. Collins and Itauma, I think, really set themselves apart. As far as it goes, and it was good viewing on that account. Now we're going to go over to Japan. This is going to be in the middle of the week on the 28th. What's today? Today's the 25th. This is going to be on Wednesday. And looking forward to a couple of ones on here. Yoshiki Takai is a decent fighter at bantamweight. Defending his title against Yatapong Tungdi. Can't say that I've ever seen Tungdi fight, so I can't say anything particularly special about that one. But the bantamweight scene in Japan is just crazy, and the chance of a unification and the potential somebody having all 4 belts is there. So we'll see. Now the fight that is on the undercard of is Eduardo Sugar Nunez against Masanori Rikishi. I haven't seen a bunch of Rikishi's fights. I watched a couple clips. I don't think that this is his fight to win. This is for the vacant IBF strap that I believe Kakashi vacated, Des, because he didn't want none of what Nunez brings to the ring. Nunez has lost once before, but he is I believe 100% stoppages on his record. The guy is a flat-out puncher, and I don't think Masanori is the guy.
I like Masanori. He's a very capable operator. He's a solid pro, but I don't think he's the guy to beat Nunez. I think Nunez. I think that he's a perfect opponent for Nunez. Now, what do we know about Nunez? Not overly a lot. We know he can punch. We haven't seen him taken into deep waters against a world-class or above opponent yet. There isn't a lot we can say, but he's Mexican. He's got a fantastic record, 27-1. All his 27 wins have come by KO. He has had a defeat, but I don't hold that against him because punchers normally do get caught out early on, but they normally plug that and they move on, and that's what he's done.
Yeah, 7 years ago in a 6-rounder, it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen. And what happens is they go looking for that shot. It just doesn't land, and you come across a risk-averse opponent over 6 rounds. You can't get to him, and a conversation normally happens in the change room. They go, if that was over 8 or 10, we'd have won that. We'd have got to him, but he got beat by decision, and he's really got going since then. He's really built up his steam. He doesn't have any notable wins, though. I've got to say that they've not put him in there with any top unbeaten kids or any prospects on the up. They've only even put him in there with kids that have been caught out before. So he's just done what others have done. But against Rikishi, I think it's going to be an interesting one because one, he's got to travel, And two, Rikishi's going to come to win. Rikishi can also punch a bit too. Rikishi's just felt a loss himself. So I'm going to go with Nunez, but we're going to find out an awful lot about Nunez.
Yeah, it's he hasn't. He's been in with some guys who we know a lot about. He took out Oscar Escandón in a couple of rounds. He stopped Miguel Mariaga, who's a pretty sturdy fighter, if I recall. Let's go and check that out and see if I have right. Yeah,
they've all been beaten multiple times, haven't they? These kids. So
yeah,
he's not doing anything other people ain't done.
I think, but what the point to make when it comes to Nunez though is that. Mariaga, Mariaga is a good case study because Mariaga has lost 8 times. He's lost to Oscar Valdez, but the only 2 people who he's been stopped by are Lomachenko and Nunez.
Right, but on the case of Mariaga, by the time Nunez got him, he was boxing once a year, and he'd lost 3 of his last 4 coming in. So they're still being very gentle with him. They've not let the leash off him yet. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to find out a little more about him in Japan this week.
Yeah, and hopefully can find somewhere to watch this. The main event usually comes on about 5:00 in the morning for me, which is when I wake up, give or take. But yeah, I mean it's Rikishi he hasn't fought anybody either. That's the real tough.
No, he hasn't. Correct.
It's he lost in his 3rd fight of his career to a guy who was 16-4. Again, you can't really knock that that kind of loss, but there's so many good fighters in Japan, and I just don't really recognize any of these names.
I like the Takei one, Matt. I like the Takei fight. They've matched Takei. Yeah, they've taken it. They've matched him really hard. So this is one of them talents that on his 8th bout was fighting for a world title, and he had a really hard last third of a fight against Jason Maloney. Was that the one where Jason Maloney nearly caught him out and nearly stopped him? Do you remember? Do you recall that one, Matty?
I think that let's go back there. I was just looking at his opponent.
He
beat Maloney by a decision. Yeah.
And Maloney nearly got to him. So Maloney lost the first 8 rounds, but then he just got to him, and the pace got to Takei, and he survived by the skin of his teeth. And then they chucked him in against Hegia, and Hegia gave him a hard fight. And the first 3 rounds went to Takei, and he might have thought, I'm gonna cruise this one, but he got drawn into a really hard fight again. So this is a kid that's had 6 or 7, then jumped up a few levels. He's still winning, but has had a really hard 2024 or whatever. Well, yeah, I think it was 2024 he took in 2 fights. So Tongdi, a Thai kid, unbeaten, can punch a bit. This might be an easier one, but again, he's unbeaten. He can punch. He's got plenty of stoppages. So we're going to find out a bit more about Takei. But Takei's really interesting because he's got that like that pop star vibe going on in Japan. A lot of the female fans think the world of him, and the broadcasters think the world of him. And this is the next big star out there. So they're matching him tough, but he's still doing it. He's still performing.
Well, the cat that he's in there with, Yedapung Tongdi, is from Thailand, and he has 4 fighters on his record who are debut. If I had to take a hunch, he's one of those guys. He's 31. And his first professional fight in boxing was 2020. I would have to say that he has a Muay Thai background. Would be my guess. So a lot of these guys have a lot more experience in fight sports than maybe just their boxing resume.
Takei was a kickboxer. He came into it from kickboxing too.
Yeah, and so we'll see that. I guess it's kind of interesting. There's one interesting name as I'm just kind of scrolling on. There's one undefeated guy on his record who Tongdi beat, and that's Herlan Gomez. And he, to this point, the only person he has lost to is Tongdi. He's, his resume isn't stout by any stretch, but he has continued his career undefeated since then. And I believe it's going to be on that same card. No, different card. And he's actually fighting this week too. That week against an undefeated guy I think in Africa. So, but anyways, so yeah, it.
So, Matty,
Go ahead.
other than his last two fights, all the guys that Tongi's fighting are the same guys that Takei was fighting. It's only the two fights he's had that kind of separate him from the rest of his career. He's stepped up 2 or 3 levels. So he's got the same. He come into this boxing thing from kickboxing, and we've seen him struggle over 12 against guys that can still be there in the championship rounds. So perhaps the Japanese have thought, let's give him an easier one, and let's get him learning on the job for the next couple. But we just don't know how good Takei is, or how good this Tongi is. So this is an open book, this one. I expect Takei to win, but he's by no means, he's not an experienced world champion who's come from a boxing background.
Yeah. So anybody who's up on Wednesday morning in the States, go ahead and watch that. You're sitting around on your lunch hour or in the UK. This could be good viewing if you can find it. I'm not sure where it might be found. Now, let's jump over to a card that I believe is going to be on DAZN on Friday. And this is going to be from Guadalajara, Mexico. And this could be another one of those places where best laid plans go to waste. Because, Rob, as you know, there's plans for Inoue to fight MJ Akhmadaliev. I believe in September was the talks. And this is a card with Akhmadaliev on it. He's going in against a guy named Luis Castillo. Not that Luis Castillo. Remember, this is 122, and that guy's 50, even though he did just fight. That's another weird story. But he's a guy he's 31-6. He's not without a bit of experience. No big victories to speak of. And Rob, we've already seen Akhmadaliev drop this Inoue ball once. Is he going to do it again?
You gotta come back to me, Matty. Sorry, do that and put it in the chat there. Give me a few minutes. 1 second.
Oh, shit. Des, go ahead and take that.
What was your question, mate? Say it again.
Akhmadaliev, he's going in with that date against Inoue on the line in September. And here he is in another fight against 31-6 guy named Luis Castillo. Is he going to drop the ball again the way he did to Topalis?
I don't think so, if I'm perfectly honest. No, I don't think so. I think Akhmadaliev is a very good fighter. I think he learned an awful lot from the Topalis one. It was a close one. I think again, Castillas has had a long career. I don't expect Akhmadaliev to come unstuck again, Castillo. I think he'll get rounds, but I think Castillo's he's not been overly active in the last 5 years. I mean, he's not been inactive, but he's been sort of 1.5 fights a year. He's coming in. He's lost 4 of his last 6 or 4 of his last 7. So I think Akhmadaliev can put that one right, and he'll get past Castillo. But I think it'll be good for Akhmadaliev to get out. But I think he's got a decent head of steam now after Gonzalez and after Espinosa Franco. I think this will be just right for Akhmadaliev, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't expect Castillo to win this one.
Yeah, that'd be a shock. Now, also on this card, an interesting one is.
Sorry, mate. Can I just add to that? Sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
But this is progressive matchmaking. They've said to Akhmadaliev, if you don't show up, if you're not where you need to be, you will be caught out. So this keeps fighters hot. So we'll talk about this in a minute when we talk about Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo and their type of matchmaking. This is the type of matchmaking that keeps guys like Akhmadaliev hot, because he knows if he doesn't show up in shape, on form, head on it, Castillo could catch him out. He's experienced enough to catch him out. But
what if he gets a cut? What if he gets a cut or something like that? Those are things I worry about.
Yeah. And if he gets a bad start, and if he doesn't turn up right, so I think with someone like with someone like an Ahmadali, you expect him to have his head screwed on properly and put this one to bed. But it's a progressive bit of matchmaking.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's he needs this if he wants that Inoue date. He's one of the only guys that's pretty stout fighter at the weight who can give Inoue a go. But we've seen a couple of guys give him a go now. Most recently Ramon Cardenas, who was a fantastic show there in Vegas. Now also on this card, I think this might be the main event, is going to be Khalil Ko trying to avenge his first career loss to Manuel Gallegos. He was stopped in the 9th round in November. So here we go again, but we get to go into Gallegos territory here in Mexico. I don't know because we've already seen Gallegos lose to Pacheco. I think he has a certain level. Des, I don't know that this fight matters much for the future of boxing at 175 or 168, as much as it's just a reasonably competitive rematch that might entertain. I'm not putting a whole lot of weight into the next big star in this one.
Mexican kid on a Mexican show, I'm not putting a lot of weight into it either. It's about get out and get us a win. So let's see what you can do. And then after that, they'll talk about where he goes next. I expect him to win, but this is pretty much more about you're going to fill the card now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if you get the revenge over Ko, though. It was I'm trying to remember that fight, and I think the Ko might have been up on the cards when he lost, and he just started dragging ass.
He got stopped, didn't he?
He did in the 9th.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember for the life of me. There's so many damn fights that happen, but yeah, we'll see. It could be an interesting one. I don't think Gallegos is going to be a for sure victor here, but I do think that Ko is going to have to probably win 7 rounds to get out of there with a draw. And you got to think after getting knocked out, he's going to tend towards a bit more negative on that, which in Mexico in front of Mexican judges is not going to bid him well.
And that boxing out in that part of the world, from America all the way up and out, it's like a game of snakes and ladders, like you've been beaten by Pacheco. Okay, so now you're under Pacheco, and Pacheco ain't got great heights to him, but he's unbeaten and he's going places. Can you now get back level? So this is an opportunity for him to get somewhere level with and sort of not redeem himself, but get back to where he wants to be before he was beaten by Pacheco. So this is all this is, and I expect him to. I don't expect Ko to beat him, but you're right. Ko was having a really good first half of that fight before he got stopped. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, and we're that's gonna be on DAZN also the same day as a card from Las Vegas, which is going to be headlined by Bek the Bully Bektemir Melikuziev against undefeated Darius Fulgham. Eric Priest going in against Luis Arias, who is an interesting opponent on that that notice because ESPN still didn't have an opponent up there. So yeah, that's not a bad test for the undefeated Priest. Santiago Dominguez going in against John Vincent Moralde, and I'm trying to see Federico Pacheco. I do believe that's the brother or cousin of Diego. He's undefeated going in against 5-2 Calvin Barnett, who's lost his last 2. Nothing else really catching my super interest on there, but Priest and Arias, a good fight, and Fulgham and Bektemir Melikuziev, I think, is also a good fight. I believe Melikuziev is the favorite in this. I'll go check it out. But it's going to be over 12 rounds, Des. So obviously they're prepping them for real title stuff here. With the Canelo, Crawford, God knows where the titles go eventually. This actually might be the fight of the weekend between Fulgham and Melikuziev. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good fight. Fulgham's going to come to win. He's got a really impressive record. I like Bek, I've got to say. I like him a lot. I think if he gets his head right, if he shows up, I think it's taken a very good kid to beat him. I know he's been beaten before, but he has put that right, and these things do happen. I fancy Bek, but it's an interesting one. That could be the fight of the weekend. You're absolutely right. But I also like Priest and Arias, so that's a good fight too. So 2 good fights on that card.
Yeah, and I'm check out and see what's going on this Amazon Prime card that's headlined by Caleb Plant. We'll see if there's not a lot on there that might be interesting. But let's see here. We got Plant against Jose Armando Resendez, Charlo against Thomas Cornflake Lamana, who you might remember getting demolished in a round by Arislandi Lara. Yonel Hernandez against Chiron Davis. I do believe that is one of the Davis brothers for some reason. So that could be interesting for the undefeated Hernandez. Let's see here. Isaac Lucero and Luis Valenzuela both undefeated over 8 rounds. That could be all right. Kermel Mouton, the Mayweather protege, is going to be in there against 4-1-1 Rene Viamonte Mastrapa. Not a, I don't know. I'm going to say not a great card, but Resendez, I think, is a decent opponent for Plant. We saw him get stopped by Elijah Garcia in 8 rounds in a fight that he was very competitive in with the young prospect, and a decision loss to a Marcos Hernandez. That was 4 years back on one of the cards PBC had from the Armory. But he's had a win over Jarrett Hurd, which is probably his calling card at this point in time. I think I remember that fight in particular. I think that he cut Hurd's lip really bad there. So he's kind of, I guess he kind of has a little bit of that Vladimir Hernandez quality where he's a worker. He throws punches. He could catch a rusty Caleb Plant off guard.
Yeah, but it's his poxy matchmaking again. And we spoke about progressive matchmaking. I'm not quite sure what the type of matchmaking this is. Maybe it's a case of we want to keep Caleb busy. There's value in Caleb Plant, but we can't have him losing again. So, look, Caleb went on this terrific run where he built up he had a career, he built up a resume, and then he goes in against Caleb Truax. Then he steps up against Canelo. Then he goes Anthony Dirrell. Then he goes Benavidez. But he loses 2 of them 4. He's probably meant to lose 2 of them 4. No version of Caleb Plant beats Benavidez. No version beats Canelo. Okay, so you're where you should be. So he's had the Trevor McCumbee fight. So why are we getting this fight? Either you're a pro boxer that wants to win world titles, or you just going to keep lukewarm. And it looks to me like this card's about keeping guys busy and keeping them lukewarm. And it's the same down the card. So this fight tells us absolutely nothing. And they've done the old trick again. They've brought in a kid who's had 1 fight in the last 2 years. And he's got 1-on-1 coming in. It's, and Caleb's not, he's not a go on the Big Dipper himself, is he? Like Caleb needs to be sold. Caleb's about the guy he's fighting. So I don't expect much out of this. I like the name, but I don't like the matchmaking.
Yeah, it's again, I have a hard, I mean, this isn't pay-per-view, thankfully, but I have a hard time expressing in words just how underwhelming this relationship between the PBC and Amazon has been, other than 2 or 3 decent fights. Yeah, I guess you got to give him credit, Des, for putting on Benavidez versus Morel. That was, obviously a very worthy fight that captured the public's imagination a little bit beyond boxing, or at least appeased the boxing fans and our bloodlust for the fights we so want to see. But it's just been a relative bummer at this point in time as far as what they've put forth.
Mate, look, in boxing, you can be unlucky with things. Kids can pull out, or fights don't go the way they're meant to go. You can be unlucky, but when you put cards on like this, you don't help yourself, do you?
No, and you're not. And as far as it goes, I mean, are you really telling Amazon that you want to remain partners with them if this is what you're giving them? It's I would feel very dissatisfied if I was them. I don't know what numbers they've been putting together for some of these pay-per-views and stuff. I imagine the tank fights still make money, but this is junk. Yeah,
when you have a relationship with a broadcaster, you assume somebody at the broadcaster has a boxing background. You assume someone has come in to work with the promoter. So when you hand in a card like this, it should have been quite normal for someone to say, it works for Amazon. No, we're not accepting that. That's garbage. That's no good for us. So take that card back and bring me back a better one. So that's what happens if you go to a network television company with a script. I've got a new play. I've got a new play I've written. I've got a new series I've written. I've got a documentary series. I want to present it to you. They look at it and I go, it's a bit rough around the edges. It ain't quite there yet. Take it away and come back to us in a year's time or 6 months' time. Give us another proof of it. But with boxing, it's almost like the arrangement is, I'm going to give you a card. You're going to say yes, and we're going to put it on. This card turns people off boxing, doesn't put people onto boxing.
100%. It's I don't know. I'm going to be worried when ESPN steps out here in a few months, because some of those top ranked cards are all right, but that's where I go for a lot of these Japanese cards, and those have been frankly the cream of the crop as far as it goes. And I hope, just because Top Rank's going away, that ESPN doesn't pull the plug on that entirely, and maybe retain some sort of a relationship with Tekken or something, because it's the quality of cards put forth is just really disappointing. And credit to Pro Box, who I think is starting to fill that void more and more, and who also is doing an exceptional job in rebuilding fighters and getting them opportunities, and seeing guys make the most of it, win, lose, or draw. Angelo Leo is a champion because of the work that they put in. And then you had Ramon Cardenas, who boxing fans aren't going to be forgetting anytime soon after headlining against Naoya Inoue in Vegas. And it's, all I got to do for that is, I don't even charge me money. I put on their freaking app, and it's, I don't know. I feel like it's like there's more subscription-based boxing choices that are coming up, but at the same time, like they're not really always holding a candle to the outlets who are either free or have been offering this programming consistently for 40 years.
I go back to it. If you was to write a comedy series of 5 episodes and take it into a broadcaster, there'd be someone that's been dealing this field for the last 25, 30 years. They know what their audience wants, and they'd say to you, this isn't ready. I've heard stories from sort of script writers that said back in the 80s, you'd have to put a script in 6 or 7 times before it got signed off. The levels were high, that it was scrutinized, and the bar was set so high for people. Well, I think back to boxing, and I don't, the sort of cards that we're seeing now on a Saturday night, they would have been sort of an undercard prop up to a main event and chief support. But what we're getting now, the main event is something you saw mid-card 10, 15 years ago. Last week's a prime example. I mean, I know Josh Tate and Ekow Essuman, that's a fight that stands anywhere. It's a really good domestic fight for us. But, and I know Collins and McGregor. I mean, I'd watch that, but that's a mid-card fight. And the rest of the card, it's just getting kids out. So I understand that in Friday's example, where you've got a local promoter who's just got himself a television deal, and he's probably getting production costs, and kids have to go and sell tickets. But when you've got a major promoter that's got 30, 40, 50 years background in sport, you expect him to have to operate to a standard. And you expect a network to say, we want to work with you, but we want you to give us cards 3 or 4 months in advance, then we can build them together. But what we're seeing here is almost like there's no standard. It's whatever the promoter hands in is what they get. And we've seen this for a long time now. And this isn't just a problem with, they say, the PBC or Queensbury, or it seems to be now the standard of our content, the quality of our cards has never been so low. I'm not talking about necessarily main events, because that's a bit of a blag. It's a bit of a bluffer. I'm talking about the rest of the card. It's never been so low.
Well, and away from the top level, the women's fights that they're putting on aren't very good as well. And I don't think they're helping the cards or the women's sport in general using some of these fights as fillers. I mean, they should be potentially on the preliminaries, and people are still filtering in, and people know you're hard pressed to find a bigger fan of women's boxing than myself. But this new entry into the sport that comes at a lower dollar number, they're just using it as filler and turning fans away. Fucking Justin starts watching Andy Griffith when most of these coming on.
I think we had a window, a time between maybe 2 Olympic cycles, 2008 to 2016. I think we had 2 cycles where we generated some really good Olympic women that got medals, and I think they had personality, and that brought in other women fighters that had done well in the amateurs, won national titles, and there was somewhat a buzz. The talent's been too thin, though. The ceiling's been too low, and there's not enough of them to be competitive. But what we had was a group that you can't deny that Katie Taylor, Serrano, Savannah Marshall, Natasha Jonas, I'm going to miss a few here, Clarissa Shields, and there's a few more in that. They delivered when they had to, but that lot now are either on their way out or they've had problems along the way. So I wonder where the next crop's coming from. And if what we're seeing lately, you're quite right. If what we're seeing lately is what we've got to look forward to for the next 3 or 4 years, I don't have much hope for women's boxing.
Yeah, and they also suffer with avoiding some of the people who upset the apple cart. I was just looking at a curiosity. Jessica Neri Plata was a very good fighter who pulled off a few upset victories in the last handful of years. She's just being avoided, unfortunately, and she was a good fighter, and she would have been an option for Sinisa Estrada, or God, why can't I remember the Costa Rican?
We can't moan about how what Katie Taylor's delivered, and Chantel Cameron stepped up, and Natasha Jonas stepped up, and Baumgardner always has a value. Who's the American Olympian that recently beat Sandy Ryan? What's her name? I forget her name now.
That beats American Olympian that beats Sandy Ryan. Oh, Mayo.
I think Mayo's been a really good fighter for the women's game. I think she's stepped up. She's travelled. She's had a few go against her, and she's
great fighter.
Yeah, she's a really good fighter, Michaela Mayer. She's been brilliant for the women's game. But there isn't a conveyor belt of them, and we don't have any behind them. So when this lot go, I wonder where women's boxing goes. And if they're going to say, no, we're still going to keep women's boxing, but we're now going to substitute the really good fighters that are on the way out the door to the new ones that are coming in, but they're a third, even less than that, of the talent. It's like, wow. Because if Terry Harper and Zimmerman is what you got to look forward to, that turns people off.
Yeah, and you got Gabriela Fundora down there who's looking exceptional. I mean, she's knocking chicks out with that left hand too. Doing very well. That she comes from that fighting family, but there's just not a lot of dance partners for them too, and that's something they need. And the problem is if I sat down and I really worked to put together a women's top 10 pound for pound, which I haven't done in quite a while, I think outside of those 10 fighters, I don't think that I could find another 10 that I would say are right below them and could move up.
No. And that 10 you mentioned are scattered across 4 weights. So the talent pool's even thinner in their individual weights. So after 8 particular really good fighters had a really good fight, where do they go after that? And the level just falls off a cliff.
Well, yeah, and obviously they're action fights that have had great platforms, have made big money. So that's why they're doing it a third time. But that's why, Katie Taylor is, fought a featherweight in 2 different weight divisions now over 3 fights. It's going to be, what options do they have? But the fact of the matter that they are so competitive is compelling in consideration. And I almost wonder, this is something I haven't considered, Des, and I think this is a better idea than messing with the men's sport. But I think, God love them, and the GWOAT would probably hate me for this, I think women's boxing would benefit from condensing down to 7 or 8 weight classes.
Yeah, not a bad chat at all. Yeah, just condense the sport because the talent field is a lot smaller. The ceiling's a lot lower. So I think they're going to have to play with it in the next 5 or 6 years. Because to repeat myself, once this group go out the door, and we were lucky to have this group, and look, this group have come under scrutiny as well, and this group haven't always excelled, but we can pick, probably half a dozen to 10 fighters, female fighters, that have stepped up and entertained. Some of the best women fights I've seen in the last 5 years have been some of the best fights I've seen. We could talk about Serrano and Taylor and Jonas and Maya and Baumgardner and Maya. These girls have stepped up when they've had to. Taylor and Jonas, they were really good fights.
Yeah,
there's not enough of them, and when they all go out the door, what's going to replace them? So we need to do something to tweak women's boxing.
And I don't know in like I can't give you a scientific reason or any other reason, just the way I've seen it operate in the ring and the way I process things myself. But like, for instance, I don't think that Chantel Cameron is any less competitive with Lauren Price if she has to do it at 147 and not 140.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
And likewise, I don't think that, if she could make 135, I don't think the fight against Katie Taylor is that much different as well. The question starts to be, can Katie Taylor compete with Chantel Cameron at 147? Does that throw that out of the window? But I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, the fact that there's a 175-pound division where Clarissa Shields is undisputed and the talent there is what it is. It's like, if the talent is that light, it shouldn't exist, just to some extent. So, but anyways, yeah, that was a fun little conversation to wrap it up there. We slowly lost everybody to other commitments, it looks like, but we had a damn good time. I'd like to thank Ricky Graville and Daniela DeRosa for throwing in some super chats. Go ahead.
Before we go, it would be, and we did speak about it before the show, but we've had so much going on, mate. Do you want to just give a little mention? Well, this week we lost two boxers that a lot of our listeners will know of. Firstly was Nino Benevitu, who was it's probably the greatest Italian boxer ever. He was Olympic champion, but he was the Olympic champion in Rome 1960, the same Olympics as Muhammad Ali. He was also a two-time world champion. And I think, Matty, would you agree is the greatest middleweight the greatest Italian boxer of all time?
I think there's an argument on that if you don't include the Italian diaspora. Because it's him. I think Giacobi Fragamini doesn't get necessarily the appreciation he should, but he's up there, and he was a two-weight world champion. He was more than a two-time world champion because he reclaimed his title on a couple of occasions at 154 and 160. His first loss of his career was in his 65th fight in a split decision in South Korea to a South Korean.
It's amazing. How do you pronounce his surname correctly, Matty?
I want to make sure I get it right because, you get a little bit.
We need Daniel De Rossi on here now, don't we?
It's Benvenuti.
All right, so Benvenuti. Fought Carlos Monzon, Dick Tyker, Emil Griffin to name three. Had 3 fights with Emil Griffin. He campaigned across light, middle, and light heavy, and he had 90 fights. And quite rightly, the first blemish on his career come after 65 bouts. They just don't make them like this anymore. Brilliant fighter, a legend of the sport. In my opinion, the greatest true Italian ever to have done it. He died this week at 87, so he's had a very full life. And it's not a tragedy, but it's sad. One of our greats has gone.
Yeah, those guys were hardened differently. You got to think that was a guy at 87. He was born into Mussolini's fascist Italy. They experienced some hard times growing up, living through World War I where there was definitely a lot of battles and living under fascism to start your life. It hardened guys like that, it took until, he was an old fighter for Monzon really to just demolish him, which nobody had really done prior. So fair play. to him, and also, my God, I'm going to forget the young lady's name here. We've gone over so much. Help me out, Des.
As Nino's a celebration of life, and he's had a wonderful life at 87. We also have to remember a young lady, Georgia O'Connor, who was a female boxer, 3-0 as a pro, and at 25 years of age, she died this week of cancer, and that's terribly sad. That's close to tragic. We really do send our best wishes and our condolences, and to Georgia's family, and we just wish them, everyone from the asylum wishes them, be tough, be strong, and we've mentioned Georgia tonight, and we wish you all the very best.
Yeah, the 25-year-old women shouldn't be dying of cancer.
No.
It's a sad world. It's a shame that these tragedies exist. So yeah, all of our love to her family and the people in the boxing community who knew and loved her. We wish everybody peace at this very difficult time. But on that sad note, unfortunately, we must go. But I'd like to thank Justin and Rob, who had to duck out, and of course Des sticking it out for the full 2 hours plus here. Next week we're going to come back. We have some cards to preview. We got some Fabio Wardley, Justice Huni action, and we also have a card from the States that's headlined by many Davises and an Abdullah Mason. Got a lot of top rank talent on that card in what will be, I think, the first defense of Keyshawn Davis's title. So you folks have a good week ahead. Americans, you enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day holiday. I hope that the weather is much sunnier than it is here, and we will see you fine folks next week.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep. You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't it? 7-year ain't it? I won't fucking smash. Fuck you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds. Simple as that.